This is the Authority Partners podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Authority Partners Podcast. This is such a special day for me because I have two guests in the studio. We haven't done this for a while and it's very exciting and the topic is great. Back to my guests, ladies first. Amela Ivkovic O'Reilly is a nutritionist with many years of professional experience. She is based in Bosnia and educated on so many great places such as Austria, UK, and Ireland. Amela completed her study of nutrition with the aim to build a functional approach to human health where each patient is universal. My second guest is Adnan Chatovic, an engineering manager at Authority Partners. Privately, he's a passionate runner, but also loves biking and snowboarding. And I have to say, he's inspiring his colleagues and friends every day to think about their health and change their habits, all from his personal experience. Our theme is Happy Healthy Programmer. But first of all, welcome, guys. How are you today?
Hello. Feeling
Hi.
very well. Thank you.
Before we go into the subject, it would be great if you could tell our audience more about yourself. Amela, shall we go again with ladies first?
Oh, well, thank you so much. As you said in your introduction, I'm a nutritionist, very passionate about the food, healthy lifestyle. I live my job, as often people will say to me, because not only I'm a nutritionist by the day, I do actively promote the lifestyle through different ways. I'm often guest on different TVs and radio stations. I go to schools and teach kids about healthy eating habits. And my spare time, I spend hiking, rock climbing, skiing. So, physical activity, good quality sleep, nutrition, spending time with my friends and laughing. All of these aspects are very important to me. So healthy lifestyle, all in all.
Great. And as I know, some of your videos are included at the YouTube, right?
Yes.
Oh, great. So our audience can check it out.
Thank
And
you.
what about you, Adnan? What could you add about yourself to what I said first?
Well, I can add that I started my career as a software professional back in 2004. Currently, I'm a husband and a father of two young ladies. You already mentioned I'm an engineering manager at Authority Partners. For the last year and a half, I'm a very passionate runner, even though I'm running and experimenting with this sport for the last 4 years. I also love biking, snowboarding, and sports in general, I guess. In the realm of the topic that we'll be talking about on this podcast, I must mention that I have no medical background whatsoever, and that everything that I know in this area comes from my own experience, from myself, my own research, and also a knowledge exchange with my friends.
What has inspired you to bring up a topic of being a happy and healthy programmer? And what is your definition of happy and healthy programmer?
Well, I have two reasons. First of all, if I believe that if I've had a chance to hear about all of this before, preferably 20 years ago when I started my career, my life would have been much easier. At some point in time, I had a lot of health issues. My blood pressure was very high. My cholesterol levels was completely uncontrollable. Sugar level was always at the upper limit, so very challenging situation. The second of all, I love this thought, which was coined, I think, by Nelson Mandela, and it says it's impossible only until somebody does it. So I have also two nice examples, right? Back in 1900s, running a mile below 4 minutes was almost impossible. Only until in 1957 it was done. And that very same year we had like 30 more runners breaking the same limit. All right. And the second example is also that in 2019, a sub 2 hours marathon was run, and we are, given the pandemic right now, there were a lot of athletes doing the same thing, but we are expecting them to come in the next couple of years. And it's very special when some kind of achievement is done by somebody and somebody that you can approach and speak about it. So I wanted to expose my experience and encourage others to do the same thing that I did. If someone told me that 10 years ago that I will be running in marathons, I would think of it as impossible. So by my own definition, a happy programmer is a programmer who is active, who has a balanced nutrition, who sleeps well, knows how to communicate, has skills, constantly improves and shares his knowledge or her knowledge in all the areas, not only programming. So that's what what I'm doing here.
Well, that's a good one. Well, I guess like with your experience, everything is possible. Amela, if we look into the path of Homo sapiens to modern man, where we make mistakes in our diet in recent time?
Well, that's a very good start because we should look at our first humans to discover why are we so unhealthy and unhappy at current times. The first humans lived a very different life to the ones we currently live, and the main problem that we're experiencing in today's times is that we haven't adapted to the modern lifestyle and stress we're experiencing. So what that means, when the first Homo sapiens, male or female, would go out of the cave and start hunting and searching for the food, he or she would wake up with the first rays of sun. They would go out and be active through the day, eventually pull something out of the ground, kill an animal and eat, and then go back and sleep. So when they go back into the cave, they wouldn't turn on the light, they wouldn't turn on the TV or phone. Eventually, they might, in that stage, knew how to light the fire or draw something on the walls of the cave. And that was their life. So apply that to today lifestyle where we have a very different ways of living. So we wake up probably with the alarm clock that would immediately run our cortisol stress hormones. So we immediately stress out as we wake up. Then we would have a coffee, another coffee, smoking, some other ways of stimulating us. And then that will continue through the day. And then when we do come home from stressful day, at work or whatever we were doing through the day, we would turn on the lights, turn on the more computers, more TV, and so on. And then we would go back to bed very late and too late for our hormones to recycle. So we have, with that kind of inflammatory lifestyle, we have created inflammatory diseases that we're seeing right now. So we're seeing rise in diabetes number, different types of diabetes 1 and diabetes 2, cardiovascular diseases, all sorts of diseases are multiplying as we continue living very opposite to that first humans. Of course, we can't live in the caves and we can't live without all the technology we do have. And particularly because our audience is mainly IT, they will agree that that's a luxury and advantage of the lifestyle we do have. And we do very much appreciate it. But we can do better, way better than we're doing at the moment. So where did we make mistakes when it comes to food? So that first Homo sapiens did what he did or she did. And then he would eat what's raw, very little cooked or processed. And then we come to the lifestyle we have right now. So through that stress, and that's why I address this waking up and going to bed. If we have the high cortisol from the moment we wake up, we open our eyes, we want something that's additional to that coffee or, having a smoke or having something similar to that, we want sugar. So we enter into the addictive phase of sugar feeds sugar. So we would grab a pastry, a croissant, a bread, similar, a grain or some form. We would make ourselves like oatmeal or something. So that's more grains. And we're not supposed to eat so many or so much of it because we don't know what to do with that sugar. We do know in terms of, because we entered the cycle of sugar feeds sugar, but our body stores it as a fat because it's not used. And we'll talk about it later on why exercise and moving is important, how we need to burn that sugar or use it. So what happens is when we eat such type of a food, that food wants more of the sugar. So it's called the hypoglycemia. So we enter the phase where our insulin drops and our body is searching for more, urging us to eat more sugar. And then we end up eating another piece of cookie or biscuit or chocolate and so on. So that's a vicious circle that the food industry has well recognized. And it's like creeping wherever we go. We have this advertisement system that goes, oh, you deserve it. Have another piece of chocolate. Have this, have that. It's all very much processed food. So what that is saying that we moved so far away from those basic food principles our ancestors ate. If we just go 2 generations back, so we don't even have to go into the caveman space. If we see what our grandparents have eaten, it was very different. They didn't have fridge or freezers, they didn't have TVs or computers, so their lifestyle was completely different to ours. And that's how these inflammatory diseases and unhealthy lifestyle has creeped into our current system, so much so that we're first generation of humans, you and I, that have, for the first time ever in history of humans, so we have the Homo sapiens and we have us, are producing children that are unhealthier than their parents. So that has never happened in the human history ever before. And that is only because we as a humans, our current generation of parents are unfortunately very, very sick.
Basically, we have a problem with the sugars because it's like tied to some kind of award, like the chocolate
Yes.
or the sweets are the award for kids, and basically we're coming into this the catch 22. Like we
Correct.
just we can't go out of it. Adnan, what are your experiences with balancing nutrition?
I started my research in nutrition like 2 years ago. I was already experienced runner at that point of time, and I was able to run pretty close to 200 kilometers a month, which is a pretty nice mileage. But pace at which I was losing my weight was very, very slow. I think I was not able to reduce it by 500 grams per month. So I realized that there is something wrong. I started my research and I was advised also to analyze my nutrition, and that is what I did. I learned what the main differences are between the proteins, carbohydrates, other types of food, what are simple versus complex carbohydrate, how nutrition should be balanced between these types of food, and most importantly, how much water I should drink as well. I started a couple of commercial diets, advertised diets, and none of them worked for me because simply I have a sweet tooth and I enjoy food very much. I investigated nutritive values of the food that I actually really like, enjoy to eat, and I come up with something that is individually a very nice fit for me. Experimenting with the food made my wife and my family happy as well because it turned me into a very good cook.
Perfect.
So, yeah. Without going into all the details, what I like, I encourage people to try and fail on a commercial diet just to figure out what wrongs individually for everyone. So
Can you just tell me like what are two like bad nutrition habits of programmers?
Usually,
please two.
Yeah, programmers usually have a lot of chocolate on their table and have a lot of sodas. Let's just call them with the common general.
Oh, yeah, right.
People do not realize that there are at least 50 grams of sugar in a half a liter of a soda.
Yes.
Oh,
that's way too much.
And I guess it comes also like with the stress level and the level of like how much your brain works, and you just need to kind of you need a shot of some energy, and that is translated in our regular human words. Okay, let's buy some chocolate and sodas. Amela, how stress and nutrition are interrelated? I've heard once you said that there is a correlation in what we eat and what eats us. And what is diet mentality?
Correct. There's a very strong connection between our stress response and our metabolism. And very often we eat when we're stressed, which should be the other way around. When we're stressed, we should calm down our body first. And I often say to my clients, when you're stressed, walk your stress out, or do something physical in order to calm down before you start eating, because if we do eat when we're stressed, we're eating the wrong food. We are exactly, as you mentioned earlier, it's that catch 2020, because we're doing the reward system. So we are feeding ourselves with the comfort food. So we'll reach for sugar, sweet, savory, drinks that are not appropriate or healthy as a reward, because we think we owe ourselves because we're stressed. So that's why we would eat certain type of foods. And then what happens is, after we eaten such type of food, we would feel very low and energy would drop. And then we feel, okay, well, we need another top up. So it's a really vicious circle that we need to identify and start, first of all, with our emotions. So find out, like, why are we eating? What's the emotion eating us? Is that anger, frustration, sadness, happiness? Whatever it is, that needs to be identified first in order to then approach food and diet in a healthy way. And that's the first step in acknowledging that we are eating something wrong, or that is something eating us really in the first place. There's so many research that has been done with the connection stress and metabolism. And it's interesting that we have different type of stress and different type of eating. So if we have a sustained or chronic stress, then we, as we know, we all know very well what's cortisol, and cortisol increases our appetite, and as well increases our motivation. So if we're having the chronic stress, it's known that we then, in that case, having the weight gain. But we have a short stress, then it's acute stress. Then we all know that we're like, if we're under very acute stress, if we heard some bad news or we've fallen in love, we know that we're losing weight rapidly. So there's a difference between gain weight in those respects when it comes to our different stress responses as well. So that's very important to analyze, and then as well acknowledge what are we eating in those type of a stress situation, because we can really heal ourselves to acknowledging emotion that's driving us towards the food. And that's really important as much as far as adults as it is for children, because we can help them to acknowledge the emotion, work with the emotion, and then eat the right food in a context of that. It's when I often say to people, when you're stressed, don't forget to drink water. First of all, start with drinking water. Have a glass or two or three just to calm yourself down. Take some time to breathe, acknowledge what's going on in your current situation. And then afterwards, you can take your time, because we won't die of hunger. We can die only of lack of hydration. And really, we can go without the food for 7 days, but we can't, be having a lack of water in our body, because our 70% of our body is water. So when we do acknowledge that, then the next step is really being in the moment. So, being present and acknowledging what's in front of us, what's on that plate. And that often people don't make these connections, and that's where we fail, so to say, and we, reach for the wrong type of food.
Is it possible that sometimes we mix if we are hungry or thirsty?
Correct. Very often we are very thirsty. And, when we do come to that feeling of thirst, that's when we already have experienced dehydration. So that's really important to find out, as I said, first of all, drink some water, a glass or two, take some space of like 15 to 20 minutes before you do have a meal, because that'll help your body readjust the digestive juices and, just being in the moment again, and prepare the food in that way, in that space as well. It'll give you an extra time to prepare an extra salad or add more veggies to your plate. Suddenly, that's another step to eating healthier plate.
Well, that's a really smart one. I will remember it for sure.
Thank you.
And then you mentioned that sleep is important part of happiness. Can you give us more insight into that thought?
We as a programmers at the beginning of our career usually sleep very little. Our idols are the people that we see on the movies, programming during all the night, having really unscheduled sleeping habits. And I didn't ever realize. I knew that I had to sleep, but I didn't know how important it was. And then I came across a book which is called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. It was a complete eye-opener for me. I learned from this book what is happening during each phase of a sleep, right? For example, during the non-REM deep sleep, a growth hormone is released, which regenerates tissues on adults and helps teenagers grow. So even if we do practice an active life, and if we have a nutrition balance, if we don't sleep and give the glue to connect all this together, probably the results will not be successful as they should, not to say optimal. During the REM phase of a sleep, everything that we learn throughout the day, brain is putting together. So there is a line on that book somewhere at the beginning that an hour of sleep could never be made up for. So probably you lost something. If you lost an hour of sleep, you lost something you will probably forget if you learn something. There are like 40 years of experiments of various groups of people, including students, children, how sleeping is important. I encourage very much everybody to get that book and read it. Also, I didn't realize what the digital hangover is and what the blue light that we are exposed to through televisions, through cell phones, through tablets, and all the devices that we are spending our days with. It turns out that the blue light is the greatest killer of the deep sleep phase, and that the alcohol and the caffeine are greatest killers of the REM sleep. So it's not only about sleeping, it's also about the quality of sleeping. I encourage people to get one of these devices that you can put around your wrist, which will give you a complete report in the morning of how your sleep went. So that's part of a self-assessment that should be done. Also, I learned that having a sleeping schedule, always go around the same time in the bed and waking up around the same time is very important. To sleep in a cold room around 18 degrees of Celsius, avoid big meals, try to not to use the alarm. I learned that the alarm is one of the worst things that you can get used to do, right? So also exercise will help, but not right before going to bed. So when I put all the dots together, activity, sleeping habits, and nutrition, that's when I realized the whole picture comes in. That made my life completely different.
Yeah, that's interesting. So basically, if we, let's say, we should sleep 8 hours each day. So if we basically take just 1 hour off and sleep, let's say 7, then like at the end of the week, we have like 5 to 7 hours less than we should.
something you lost from your life. What is happening as well, there are good memories, the things that you want to keep for yourself, but also there are things that are happening that you would like to forget. So brain is doing both during the sleep. It will remove from your memory the things that you would like to forget, and will keep in memory the things that you wanna remember. So it goes in many ways. It's pretty important.
Yeah, it is important. Very important. Amela, what's the connection between sleep and nutrition in this context?
Enormous, and as Adnan pointed out, it's a very strong connection to the whole healthy body system. And if we don't sleep, we can't be healthy. It's just, I often say to my clients, there's no magic pill I can give to anybody to bring back that restorative sleep that is so optimal and so important to every single thing that we do through the day. So basically, back to that Homo sapiens, I always go back to that, the first human, but it's really to understand how we haven't changed. And those hormones that he or she produced at that stage are the same ones we have. So we have no adaptation to the modern lifestyle in terms of stress. And why is that in terms of sleep important? So that human went to bed, or to his cave version of bed, at the time when the sun went down. So basically we went to bed to sleep when literally the sun went down. So he didn't, when he or she went back to the cave, they didn't turn on the light switch or turn on the TV. So they would literally follow the cycle of the day or night. And that's called circadian rhythm. And that's something that's in us and constantly challenging us to do the right thing, but we're going against it in most of our cases, modern lifestyle case. So what that means is that our hormones are made in that cyclical movement and the circadian rhythm movement. So when the night goes down, our body starts slowly to shut down. We're getting ready to slow down, go to bed and sleep. So that's depending on the season of the year. If it's winter, that's much earlier. It's around 7 and 8, or if it's summer, that's 9, 10, 10:30, the latest. So we should be going to bed then. And the preparation of going to sleep is equally important. So it's not about us realizing it's like 11 p.m. at night and going, oh my God, I really should be in bed by now. Off I go, turn off my laptop and I go to bed. It takes up to an hour for our body to readjust or to prepare itself to sleep. So the brain works on that function, that, and particularly the electromagnetic radiation that comes from the phone, laptop, the TV, makes it even worse. So we need to, I often use the comparison as a baby. So if you take a small child, you will first give him a bath, give him a dinner, read him a book, and then the child will fall asleep. You wouldn't take the child in front, put in front of TV and immediately go, oh, you have to go to sleep now. That would never happen. And it's the same with our brain, the adult brain. It takes time, and it should be the same thing every night. It's called it's a brain memory. So when we turn off our lights, we take our cup of tea, let's say, read a book for 15 minutes, give ourselves a massage, or have a bath or a warm shower, whatever it is, it has to be a constant thing. So our brain goes, oh, she's bringing me back to sleep. So I'm switching off, turning on production of melatonin, which is the mother of all the hormones, and I can now go into that proper sleep. If that doesn't happen, and we just, from tiredness or whatever it is, decide, okay, I really should go to sleep now, but we're not having all those introduction to sleep, we will have interrupted sleep. And that REM phase that Adnan mentioned would never happen. So we would sleep physically because our body is tired, but the restorative sleep, the hormonal rebalance sleep will never happen. And the key part is going to bed before 11. So we should be in bed by 10, 10:30, the latest. So we have this part of producing melatonin, which is exclusively produced in a pitch dark. So it has to be completely dark, like it was in the cave. So let's just say, like little piece of light goes through our eye bulbs, it will immediately wake up our hormonal system. So if the room is not dark, we have to put our eye covers and sleep in order to get proper melatonin, i.e. all other hormones, are testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, insulin level regulated, stress hormones, thyroid hormones regulated. All of them are directly connected to melatonin and the dark, or the dark room we sleep. And it should be, relaxing space, something where we enjoy and we can switch off from all the stressors that we, accumulated through the day.
That's interesting. But what do you both guys think about sleeping apps in that case?
Not great, because it just stresses you even more. And I was listening research done on that. It's just because your brain goes like, oh, something is measuring it, and therefore I'm aware of it. And they made a connection. I'll find out research if anybody's interested. But they made a connection with a sleeping ad and problem with sleeping long term. So as long as we know that we're being monitored by something or some process, we do not have a proper sleep. So it's better if we do these natural introduction to sleep and sleep, 6-7 hours per night, quality sleep, then, and because often we would have those apps will measure the time we wake up if we go to let's go to the toilet, or we wake up to whatever introduction it is, then, it stresses us more. So we enter the new day with more stress than we should have.
But it's really tempting when you see the app, and your bedtime story is reading Harry Styles or Brad Pitt.
That's advertising. People need to sell. People need to sell. Yes. I personally have never experimented with sleeping apps. Never went into that direction.
You didn't.
No.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is connected to devices, and you need to, bring into the electronic devices into your bedroom. So I guess you're right. It's a no. So yeah, from that point, I understand it. I just need to break up with my sleeping app.
Can I just add one more thing in terms of food and sleep? It's important to tell our audience that ideally, if we can, I think we can all organize our day around that we give our body at least 3 hours, so that the last meal is minimally 3 hours before we go to sleep. Why is that important? Because if we have eaten meal, let's say at 9 o'clock, and we want to go to bed at 10 or 10:30, we'll be still digesting that food. Mm-hmm. And at some point, the hypoglycemia, which because the blood sugar drops down, will wake up. And we will get, upset because we feel hungry or anxious, or, we want to go into our fridge. So, having a big space between the last meal and the time to go to bed is so important for a proper sleep as well. And ideally, that meal not to be like high sugary, high carbohydrate meal as well, because we want to balance sugar levels before going to bed. The only instance where exceptions is the word I'm looking for, is the people with type 1 diabetes, or the people who, let's say, were athletes and they need to have had a heavy training load or something like that, or, people with type 1 diabetes because they need a bedtime snack to prevent that. We call that in nutrition nocturnal hypoglycemia. So they need to have a snack before going to bed, but it's always a protein and, good fats. A snack. So that's the only exception, but really try not to eat before going to bed.
Adnan, how physical activity affects programmers' life, and what do you recommend in that light?
Before I learned all the details about the scientific approach and explanation on activity's impact on the brain and health in general, I was already into running for a year and a half. And my personal impression was that I was so much relaxed and concentrated during the rest of the day. Endurance that I was developing, obviously, because of running, was somehow transferred to my work as well. That's the most honest impression that I get from it. So that's why I keep doing it. Also, I usually run in the morning, and I feel like after a run, I already did something successful in my day, and it hasn't even started yet. Right?
That's a good point.
First of all, I recommend to everybody to do some kind of a self-assessment, do the blood analysis, measure the blood pressure, find out about BMI, BMR. So first find out where you are, so you know what goals you need to set. And then I recommend starting very slowly, because habits are very hard to change. And if you try to, say something like, I want to start from tomorrow and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to run 5 days a week. I'm going to go to the gym three times a week. That simply doesn't work. Those changes, it's my personal approach. Those changes have to be introduced gradually. Experiment with activities and keep the ones that are joyful for you and explore it into details. Most importantly, surround yourself with the people who are experts in the area and try to extract as much as possible knowledge from them. Mm-hmm. By my experience, 95% of the people that I met in the running area are ready to help. And on top of this investigating what activity is the best fit for you, I suggest to people who are sitting most of their working time, to surround the working environment with some exercising equipment, which will motivate them to stand up at least 5 to 10 minutes in an hour, do some push-ups. For me, it's a exercise mat. I also have a TRX 2 meters from my desk. That's a beautiful fitness equipment. You can do a variety of very easy exercises, the one that will not tire you, but will, keep you moving at least 20 minutes up to half an hour during the day. So bottom line, I would recommend a slow entrance, and I'm sure that people will be inspired to do more, and it will gradually grow to something which is much more than just a couple of minutes of workout.
Right, they can start with walking, right?
Yes, definitely. But walking will not help much unless it raises heartbeat at least to 60%, right? The fat burning helps. I think Amela knows this better, but fat burning doesn't help if walking very slowly and relaxed. I think heartbeat has to go up a little bit.
Amela, what's your thinking of this? And why do we need to be constantly in motion to be healthy?
Well, Adnan gave it a great intro to answering these questions. We really need to move. We're made to be in a moving mode. So sitting is next smoking, we often say in nutrition. And really, unfortunately, it's showing us all the data, all the science is showing us in that direction. More we sit, less healthy we are. So our body basically, again, going back to Homo sapiens, my favorite example, but
the blueprint of a man.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It really helps us to understand why we shouldn't be sitting at all. Because think about that human, they were constantly moving. Even just if we go a few generations behind us, if we look at our parents or grandparents, or even us when we were little, we were never in front of TV or computer. We were constantly moving, playing, using our body to be in the motion. So it's not like about running marathons or going hard on ourselves, but using body to be active. So what that means, as Adam pointed out, you start slowly and finding what really works for you. Our humans they were hunting, they were in the fields, digging. They did a very physical workout. We do not have that, and we do not have need for that, but we need to move our body. So we need to find a modus that works for us the best. And just simple changes, like, if we raise our laptops or computers into the higher level, so we're standing instead of sitting, and really only sit when we get tired, or, do a little workout through the day, will make a huge difference to our metabolic rate, because the more we sit, the slower metabolic rate. And even if we eat healthier, it's just a very simple mathematical equation. We retain that calorie intake because we're not burning the calorie. So we have to get aware. It's just awareness. We need more nutrient-dense food, not a more calorific equation of the food. So instead of having the full plate of food, we should go, okay, where is the nutrient-dense food here? Is it a good quality protein? Where is my good fat here? Where are my carbohydrates? And I should really get them more from the vegetable, not from grains. So there are all little things that affect our metabolic rate, and physical activity helps us with burning those calories. So if we have like a low movement day, that means we can go back more on soups and salads, and then if we're more active, we will introduce more quality grains and stuff like that. So moving is essential to our body. We're made to move, and the muscles that are the biggest metabolic burners in our body are the ones we're sitting on. So this is our gluteus, our lower part of the back, and our abdominal muscles. So they are the ones that are sitting and basically retaining that calorie intake. And they're of course, unfortunately, if we're stressed, even more we call that toxic belly. So that's that visceral fat around organs, which unfortunately, if it stays too long, producing inflammatory cytokines, and then move around our bodies and eat our arteries and our nerves and so on. So often you would see with a lot of people who have chronic stress, and that's majority of us, when we go on our holidays or we have our time off, we get sick because, all this inflammation was circling in our body and waiting for the moment to go, now we can actually do the reparation work. So we have to be aware of that and to imply all of these little emotion moments in the day. So don't wait for like a weekend to be active. We can be active every day, through day. And that's what our body wants and, desires the most.
Yeah, and Bat, many of our listeners, as well as we are, when we stop and go out for, let's say, a weekend off or long weekend or a holiday, that's the point we get sick, because I guess like the stress is off. In that case, we can really get sick because I guess throughout the working days, we are very firm and hard to finish our business goals, and not thinking about movement and all the pillars of a healthy life. And what we said are the 4 pillars.
Well, yes, I love those 4 pillars. So it's the proper nutrition, it's sleep, physical activity, and stress control. So all those 4 are in constant communication, and there is not one that can replace others. So we have to have all those 4 in balance. Saying that, we shouldn't be very harsh on ourselves. We all know, particularly if we're all parents and we had small kids or animals, you can have a pet who's screaming at the middle of the night, or you had a bad night through, diseases, or somebody died in the family. So there will be the days and nights and many days in our lifetime that we won't sleep correctly. So we won't go to bed at 11 o'clock. So we might end up going to bed at 1 or 2, or we have crisis at work. But we can do better next day. So instead of punishing ourselves further on, going, I didn't sleep, so I'll just continue that bad habit. So next day go, okay, I'll go to bed at 7 or 8:30, read book for an hour, have a really nice herbal tea, talk to a friend so I can de-stress, and have a nice bath, go for a massage, do nice things to ourselves when we feel that we have stressed ourselves, previous day or days. So there are things that we can put in motion to help those 4, pillars of health to get more balanced. The basis of this principles that I like to point out to my clients is be gentle to ourselves. There's no perfection in anything. So there's no perfect diet. There's no perfect exercise plan or stress control, or sleeping cycle that works through the week or through, month, but we can do better. And with knowledge, we apply every day can be a better version of ourselves.
And Adnan, I would say, like, now talking to Amala about these 4 pillars, that you kind of like, your instinct told you what to do, how to reframe your habits.
Exactly. I have to say that I came to the same conclusions from a completely and independent point. Right. And I asked Amala the last time when we spoke about it, which is the 4th pillar, because I identified 3 of them and I didn't include the stress control. I really have to also investigate into that area as well. And this will definitely help a lot.
Oh, perfect. And last but not least, I have a question for both of you. What sources of information would you recommend for further inspiration and motivation to improve and maintain programmers' life, or anybody's life, like you inspired me, and you will definitely inspire all our listeners?
I don't want to go ahead.
There are many, but I was just thinking about that when you asked the question. I have to say that if I would direct anybody, first of all, I'd say I'm a big believer in the principle of intuitive eating. So what that means is I don't believe in diets, and weight-inclusive approach to eating.
Thank you, Anna.
Body health. It's really important because, unfortunately, the modern lifestyle has proven over and over again that more we diet, worse we are. So it's unfortunately that's how the marketing works, that's how the industry of food is based on, and so on. So really reject the diet mentality. Honor your hunger. So, when you feel hungry, really eat, but eat proper, right food. And then make peace with food, because, ditch the emotional part, start eating intuitively and, work with that hunger in a proper way. It won't be ideal, but it'll be better than you did previously or the previous meal. So again, chances to do better is always there. Discover as well when you're satisfied. We need to work on the limits where we actually, I often say, just think about your stomach as a fist and how much food can fit into that fist. Not much. So just, more you eat, that fist expands. And there's a beautiful Japanese principle where they eat 80% on the plate and they leave 20%, they leave another 15 to 20 minutes, and if they're still hungry, they continue eating. Because chewing part as a process is so important, and we forget to chew. All of us, programmers, whatever, field of work we're coming through, we tend to eat in a rush. So please, leave 15, 20 minutes for your meal, get away from your, any interruption, be phone, laptop, anybody who can interrupt your process of chewing, learn how to chew your food. And then, while you're chewing, you'll see how when fullness hits that moment, I'm full, you'll stop eating. And immediately you'll eat less over the food. So, there's these basic principles we don't apply, and they're so important to the everyday life and our health, because we are not only what we eat, we are how we eat. And, the part of that we mentioned earlier is what's eating us. So, respecting our body, exercising and feeling the difference, as Adnan did, and it's so important because we will become better version of ourselves, and immediately we will give ourselves motivation to do better. So, honoring really our health through gentle nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress control, surrounding ourselves with the proper positive people. And if we don't have them, search for them, through the network system, online, go outside, go for a run, for a walk. You will attract same-minded people. So, be positive about all of these aspects and you'll do much better.
And back to you, Adnan. What would be your recommendation for books and takeout from this podcast?
Well, I'm a book lover. And in the first place, I would recommend 2 books by Tony Buzan. One is called Speed Reading and Study Skills. It's magnificently interesting how Tony explained nature of a human eye and how we can utilize a peripheral view by reading and catching a context of a paragraph by reading just a few words from it. And it's very interesting because there are practices from the beginning to the end of the book, how understanding in such a speed reading can be improved, and you can immediately measure yourself on a speed reading improvements. So these books will help you read everything else. And I very much recommend Why Do We Sleep, that I already mentioned, by Matthew Walker, Endure by Alex Hutchinson, Healthy Programmer, from those who want to explore running in more detail, from jogging to marathon, Daniel's running formula, the complete running and a marathon guide, Focus by Daniel Goleman, Body by Timothy Ferris, the book that has everything that we spoke about here. And there is a YouTube channel that I follow. It's done by Seth James Demore. It also includes his family life, but try to filter out the ones that are dedicated to explanation of the red blood cells functioning and running in general. So that would be my recommendation. And I encourage everybody to go outside. It's connected also with the D vitamin. And there are only 2 weather conditions, so weather is not an excuse. You should consider going out only in case of lightning or extreme heat. Everything else is completely acceptable. I can justify that because I have been running on -10 degrees Celsius, and on +30 works fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds great. And thank you guys for sharing, and thank you both so much for being with us today. It was my great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
It was our pleasure.
Absolutely great pleasure to be part of this podcast, and I hope we'll all of us together, inspire people to do better, be better, being a healthier version of themselves, because it doesn't stop. So we always, with every next breath, we have a possibility to do or build a better version of ourselves and be example to others to do better.
Exactly, as Adnan is doing every single day.
Correct.
Thank you very much. It was really my pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Hope to talk to you soon once again.
Thank you for listening to Authority Partners podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode.